in the International Journal of Operations and Production Management, together with Samuel Roscoe from University of British Columbia, Canada, David Gligor from Florida Gulf Coast University, and Chang Hoon Oh from University of Kansas. We are here to, as I said, discuss the background, the purpose of our special issue, and then explain what type of persons we expect. And hopefully, when we have the breakout sessions, we are expecting you, and we are waiting for your ideas to give us, share your ideas, and then we will give you feedback. The background, why we have this special issue. The reason and the primary reason for this special issue was for us to was based on our recognition that supply chain management has becoming more and more embedded and entangled with socio-political environment around the world. If you look at the early conceptualizations of supply chain management, and especially those who have maybe PhD training in supply chain management field would know what I'm talking about. The concept was invented and kind of put forward in 1980s. It was, of course, during the Cold War, but under relative, let's say, socio-political stability. And the background and the, let's say, the big thinkers like J. Lalande, Donald Bowersox, Tom Menzer, Martin Christopher, all these early scholars, eminent scholars in the field. In the field had the thinking of firm-based thinking in terms of the supply chain management, and their conceptualization was based on firm-level analysis, mostly speaking. Although we talked about supply chain management, they talked about supply chain management. It was with firm-level thinking. And there was relatively, let's say, disregard or at least ignorance of overall macro-political environment, socio-political environment. And most of the analysis was with the firm behavior and structure in mind. But especially recently, before COVID-19, during COVID-19, it became clear that supply chains, you can't really analyze and understand them fully without taking socio-political environment into account. And those include, of course, social forces, cultural forces, political elements that vary across local, national, and international scales. This, let's say, relative overlook was the primary motivation that we have with our special issue. And as I mentioned, today's business reality is especially compared to, let's say, past, where there was relative stability. There are increasing cases of political tensions, and socio-political forces play an increasing and amplified role in global trade. For example, in early 1990s, there was even a thinking pattern among scholars who was advocating the idea of the end of the story. For example, Francis Fukuyama, where suggested that we are entered this post-capitalist era where global trade and business should be free, liberal values have won, and the world will be better off just accepting and following this dominant paradigm of liberal economical ideas and the theories. But over the years, we can see that there is increasing tensions, as I said, and world trade is not as free as, for example, maybe 10, 15 years ago. There are increasing decoupling of global trade flows, increasing regionalization across different regions and blocks in the world. For example, Mercosur in the Latin America, in Southeast Asia, there are also trading blocks where they trade more with each other, but less with other regions. There are increasing cases of sanctions being applied, and also increasing cases of laws and regulations that aim at regulating supply chain behavior and supply chain structure and governance. For example, in European Union nowadays, there is an introduction of supply chain law, including Denmark actually, and Germany and other countries, where companies are held accountable for the behavior of their supply chain partners elsewhere outside of European Union. So all these point out to increasing weight and importance of socio-political elements in supply chain management. And with this in mind, we are basically trying to, the purpose we have is to advance a socio-political perspective of supply chain management, where socio-political factors play at the center in the analysis of supply chain management. And we also try to promote the development of new theories or extend existing theories such as global value chains and global production networks, which have been around for a while, but mostly within the domain of economic geography, socio-political sciences, or political economic sciences, and typically has been relatively disconnected from the supply chain management discourse. So we want to bring them together and merge them and integrate insights and bring those theories into supply chain domain. And we are also aiming to have substantial contributions to the field by examining the contemporary socio-political events and their impact on global supply chains. So I think from here on, Samuel can continue with presenting the potential topics we would like to cover. And this is of course not by any means limited. And then there are other technical elements that we would like to inform you. So Samuel, the turn is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ismail, for that really nice summary, and welcome everybody from all over the world. Great to have everybody here. So just to sort of build on what Ismail was talking about, I personally believe that this is a very important topic, and us as supply chain scholars, and when I'm teaching in the classroom, we tend to have a very sort of business-led understanding of global supply chains. We're very concentrated on the cost of locating production in a particular part of the world. We're very interested in lead times, inventory management. We're looking at production methods and how buyers and suppliers form relationships. And all of those concepts are fine, and they've been explored in great depth. But that is a research that has really been at one scale or one level, and that is the scale of the supply chain, specifically from a business perspective. And what we're trying to push here is that Ismail was talking about, was this multi-scalar view, and that brings in the role of governments. It brings in the role of nation states. The reality is that businesses don't, or they can't anymore, configure their global supply chains based on purely cost-related factors. Maybe that was the case before Brexit, before the US-China trade war, before COVID-19, but certainly since the pandemic and all of the disruptions we've seen over the past 5 years, the reality is that businesses have to consider the role of nation states, governments, as well as society, and changing cultural norms in their business decisions. And that's why we think the socio-political view is so important to bring into the field of supply chain management, which we're arguing has been building over recent years, but is still so much room to explore in this area. That's why it's such an exciting topic. So some of the potential topics that we've listed here, again, is not an exhaustive list, but international wars and armed conflicts, the war in Ukraine, the conflict between Israel and Gaza at the moment, and we have other sort of conflicts that are going on around the globe currently that are affecting global trade flows. We also have tensions between nation states, especially the US and China, but also the US and other US and Russia, tensions between Europe and China, Europe and Russia, etc. And these sort of tensions between nation states are prompting companies to seriously consider where they're sourcing from, and where are their suppliers located, where are their production sites located. We talk a little bit in the special issue proposal about the concept of friendshoring, and where are we locating production? Are they considered to be, friendly nations, etc. A topic that really hasn't been explored in significant depth in the supply chain literature yet. The other thing is, the decoupling of economic powers. That decoupling, when we talk about that tends to be referred to as the US and China, but there is decoupling going on all over the world. If we look at the UK and Europe, which has happened just over the past sort of 3 or 4 years, we also have decoupling going on between other nation states globally. And what that's leading to is decoupling of global supply chains. So again, where we might have things such as semiconductors, or we might have chips and microprocessors where there's now sanctions, and the products are supposed to be built in a particular economy and not another, where governments are directly intervening in the manufacture and the location of production. And that is a particularly interesting topic in terms of supply chain design. Deglobalization, nationalism, and protectionism, very important from this social view. So how are social norms changing? We saw this a lot, especially during the pandemic. We're seeing it as well with in the United States with the Supply Chain Act from Joe Biden. The idea of deglobalizing, bringing key industries to the United States, similarly in Europe with semiconductors as well, giving incentives to locate production in a particular country, being driven by this idea of if production is localized, then we feel that we have a more secure supply chain. And that is interesting, sort of looking at the scales from government and supply chains and how businesses and policymakers are interacting. Geopolitical rivalry and critical supply chains, like I mentioned, in the Supply Chain Act, looking at electric vehicle batteries, looking at semiconductors, vaccines, also interesting with pharmaceuticals, in the United States in particular, like I said, in Europe with semiconductor chips and with other EV battery supply chains becoming very important, in the role of politicians and public sentiment in those supply chains. Other interesting things that Ismail touched on already: supply chain legislation, the role of modern slavery legislation in Germany, as well as in the UK, Dodd-Frank Act as well in the United States, and other policies looking at prompting companies to increase the transparency of their supply chains. And then how all of these sort of politically driven decisions are shaping supply chain designs, moving from centralized production in China or Southeast Asia to more regionalized production networks and nearshoring supply chain designs, etc. And that's sort of where we're really interested here. If we just move to the next slide, Ismail. So in terms of the type of research, I think the main thing to stress here with IJOPM, and the readers of IJOPM will be aware, it is an empirically driven journal, very much interested in going out and gathering data and analyzing that data in a variety of ways. But we're very interested in sort of gathering the opinions of supply chain decision makers, of trade associations, of political actors. And then that can be done through surveys, that can be done through interviews, it can be done through focus groups. and then trying to analyze that data using quantitative or qualitative methods. Action research is mentioned here, mixed methods, surveys as well as interviews, focus groups. Action research could be in there as well. And then, design science papers are always interesting, and, really focusing here on the empirics. There is the possibility or the opportunity for really, really good systematic literature reviews, as long as they're really driving the field forward, as well as conceptual papers. If there's some really strong theory building papers that look at the sort of multiscalar view of supply chains and political interactions, that would also be considered. But again, those types of papers without empirics have to hit quite a high bar to get into IJOPM. The other thing to stress about IJOPM papers is we are looking for a theoretical contribution, and we would expect the analysis of the data to be driven by some theory of the firm, or theory of global value chains, global production networks, or if you're doing grounded research and development of your own theory. Okay, we can cover that more in the breakout sessions. We just go to the next slide as well. So the submission and the review process, it must adhere to the normal author guidelines. When you're submitting, go through the IJOPM portal to submit, submit via Manuscript Central. The deadlines here for paper submissions, the 29th of February, 2024. So hopefully you're already out gathering data. The next one is looking at a initial paper sift and doing the long listing in March. Then the long list will be sent out for external review in the end of March of 2024. We will then look to do our first review outcome by the end of May next year. We will then ask you to submit your revised manuscripts if you're successful in getting through that stage by September of 2024. Second review by November, and then hoping to have publication of the special issue in early 2025. Okay, so we will go through this in the breakout rooms. The idea of this session now is, what we wanted to do is give everyone the opportunity to interact with one of the special issue editors in a breakout room. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've assigned everybody to a breakout room. And when you're in the breakout rooms, can I encourage you, if you have paper ideas, if you want to pitch a paper, there's only about 5 or 6 people in each room. So if you're given 2 to 3 minutes to sort of pitch your idea and get feedback, we will only have about 25 minutes to do the breakout sessions, and then we'll come back for a debrief. So please use this opportunity to speak directly to one of the special issue editors. I will open up the rooms now. Ismail, can I ask you to join room 3, and I'll go into room 4. Cheng Hoon, you're in room 1, and David, you're going to be in room 2. So I'm just going to open up all the rooms now, and we will go through that process. I will not be recording. Yeah, Ismail, you're in room 3. I will not be recording when we're in the breakout rooms. So again, free and frank discussions within the breakout rooms, and we'll only be recording when we're back in the master session. Okay, so I'm going to open up the rooms, and I look forward to seeing you all. 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm just going to record the last bits here just to kind of summarize the debrief. The one thing that I will say is that the recording will be up on my YouTube channel. I'll put it up on LinkedIn with IJOPM as well, so everybody can find the link to the YouTube channel where we have we'll be hosting this recording if you need to kind of go back and review it or share it with your writing partners. Hopefully that's useful, and that will be made available as well. So I think just to start, I'll give a debrief on what we talked about just very quickly, and then I'll move around to the other special issue editors to hear what they were talking about. So I ended up with 3 people in my room after one of the individuals left, and we had a nice discussion about sort of 3 very different ideas. The first idea was looking at armed conflict in a particular region of the world. So we said, I argued, instead of looking at conflicts across all different geographies, focusing on either North Africa or a particular area in Southeast Asia, etc. And we had one of our presenters was suggesting that using archival data to look at past conflicts, gathering newspaper articles using things like Bloomberg, Reuters, Factiva, and doing some archival analysis to look at how past conflicts have affected global supply chains and global operations. And then using focus groups and going out and speaking with businesses as well as, trade associations and political actors to understand how a current conflict is affecting a global supply chain or their global supply chains. And the idea there is to do some comparisons between past and present to look at trends within a particular region of the world. And that type of topic is sort of directly relevant to what we're looking at. And it's a nice use of mixed methods in terms of archival analysis, as well as the use of empirics as well. We had another paper that was interested in looking at offshore wind farms and the sharing of energy between the UK and Denmark, and as well as the EU in the North Sea, potential, tensions as a result of energy concerns following the war in Ukraine. And how that has led to different types of partnerships and different types of sharing agreements. So nice interactions there, again, between political actors, tensions between nation states, and also looking at how businesses are responding to that. Finally, we also discussed another paper that was looking at the NHS in the UK and the provision of water and blood into the NHS. And some of the issues that we were trying to sort of tease out there is this only looking at healthcare within a particular country, or are we able to bring in some sort of, what are the social norms here? How is a publicly funded body such as the NHS influenced by political interventions? And interesting sort of insights about how is the UK government, shaping this, the NHS supply chain, etc. So that's kind of where we got to. We talked a lot about the importance of theoretical frames, using a theoretical lens, stating it early on in the paper, and then using it throughout the paper in order to interpret not only your findings, but also using it to interpret the literature, and then making a theoretical contribution based on the interpretation of your findings, okay? So there is a bar that has to be hit for IJOPM in terms of theoretical contribution, and I think that's important to note. Okay, so I'll wrap that up from my group. I'll go over to Chang Hoon. Hopefully you are there. And you can take yourself off of mute. You still there? Oh, there he is.
Yep.
Go ahead, Chang.
So yeah, we have 4 scholars, and it's quite interesting to see that the topic we discussed was quite interdisciplinary, in my opinion, and there's some kind of 3 papers have some similarity in terms of 3 papers discuss about law, regulation, registration. So those are quite interesting topic for us, and it's quite a nice group we discuss. So, and the first 2 papers about impact pathway papers. So it is quite interesting to see that how we can relate it with the GBC and geopolitical environment and impact pathway. That is really interesting to see, and there's a huge opportunity for us to looking for those as well. And the last one was the systematic literature review paper, so using the sustainable manufacturing network. So yeah, so the last one is a little bit different. So he's wondering whether this paper is meet our expectation in the topic. So we discuss about geopolitical environment should be the center of the paper. That is what we discussed. So I think it will be a great opportunity for us to have the variety of topic under the umbrella of geopolitical event in this special issue. So it is really interesting opportunity for us and the special issue to have this type of papers. Yep.
Thank you, Chang Hoon. Okay, we're going to move on to David. David, do you want to just take yourself off of mute and give us a debrief?
Yes, sure. So we had a couple of interesting projects that were suggested, very different, very different. One of them was a qualitative piece. The authors have conducted, I believe, 6 interviews to date. Essentially, they're looking at some of the ethical aspects when it comes to geopolitical disruptions and how they impact various aspects of the supply chain. They've conducted some interesting interviews, a very diverse sample, different job functions. I think very interesting paper. My suggestion was for the authors to stay in touch with myself or someone on the team as they're refining the model, because they're still refining the model. Another paper that was suggested was looking at the impact of different technologies, such as blockchain, on transparency, specifically in the context of how different geopolitical disruptions impact the supply for different commodities. As I told the author, it's actually, he mentioned he's a PhD student. He's still refining the model. It's more or less an idea that he has. The main challenge that I saw with that one was really pinpointing the theoretical contributions. And I encouraged him as well to stay in touch with me or someone on the team for feedback as he's refining the model. And the last one that we had presented, the third one, it was quite interesting. While those other 2 projects more or less looked at the firm, this project had a more macro approach, looking at the impact of geopolitical disruptions on various aspects of performance within logistics and supply chain, but more at the macro level. And again, this was an idea that the author is still developing, and he asked if he can contact me so we can give him feedback as he's developing the idea. And of course, I'm more than happy to do that. So all 3 ideas were very interesting, very different. And my main recommendation to all 3 authors was to stay in touch with us as they're refining the model, because all the proposed papers were essentially a work in progress. So, and I know a couple of you asked for my email, and I didn't get a chance to type it before we left the room. Our emails are in the call for papers, and also we can share it again right now in this group as well. So I encourage you guys to reach out to us as you're refining the papers. But those were the 3 projects that were pitched in our session.
Okay, that's great, David. Thank you for that. And we'll just conclude with Ismail, if you want to give us a summary, and then you can wrap us up.
Yeah, sure. We also had 4 participants apart from myself, but there were only 2 of them pitching their ideas. The other 2 was an audience and just here for inspiration. Both actually papers in our breakout room eventually revolved around decoupling, but from a completely different angles. One was more about global production network reconfiguration and coming from more international business, international political economy perspective. And the other, the paper was more around virtual supply chains. How do you implement virtual supply chains as a solution to decoupling in global supply chains? And of course, I had specific feedback for each paper, but my kind of common thread for each paper, for both papers, was that we suggest and we promote the idea of connecting these different streams of literature and synthesizing them, integrating them into kind of a discourse that really speaks to supply chain management scholars. So this is, IJOPM being a supply chain management journal, is primarily read by supply chain management scholars. And I told participants that whatever perspective you bring in, and this is again part of the purpose of the special issue, to bring in different perspectives, especially from international business and economic geography and etc. Whatever perspectives you bring in, you make sure that you speak and integrate those perspectives into mainstream supply chain management domain. But also from the other way around, if you look the reverse point of view, if you start from the supply chain management perspective, those macro variables, let's say decoupling, trade wars, and conflicts, and etc., should not be just addendum to the main storyline of the paper, but part of the central storyline of the paper. So eventually, I told the participants that it's important to find a balance between when you're making the connection and that you're making strong contribution to both streams of literature that you draw from and that you speak to. So that was the kind of the overarching feedback I give to them. And, I'm, as David and others, I'm happy to give individual feedback in form of email to all participants who joined our session today.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much, Ismail. Well, that brings us nicely to the end of the session. I really do appreciate all of you joining us from all over the world in different time zones and wherever you are at the moment. It was really interesting for me to see the ideas and the papers that are going to be coming through for us to keep a watch out and help you develop your ideas over the next sort of 3 or 4 months. And we're looking forward to meeting you. I will be posting this video, like I said, on my YouTube channel. I also be putting up the slides. So those will be publicly available for everybody as well. Please do go on to the special issue, look up our emails and get in contact if you want to discuss ideas and help shape your papers as we go forward. Okay, so thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great day, and it was a pleasure meeting all of you. So we will leave it there, and all the best for now.